Okay, hi everyone. In this video I wanted to show you some of the shots which I was doing with just kind of like test shots with the Nikon 70 to 200mm lens. This one here. So this is the older version. This is the VR1 and it is a little bit old and it was second hand. So I got it for second hand for just around about £1,000 without a filter or anything there. Which is still about £600 cheaper than what it was when it was new. And certainly £600 or £800 cheaper than the VR2 version, which is out just now. So I thought I'd see how good its sharpness is with the Nikon D300 and just see kind of how good it was at different apertures. So I went around, took some shots of lots of different things, different shutter speeds, checking the vibration reduction, all that kind of stuff. And I was really struggling to figure out a good place to get some proper accurate shots of the sharpness. But then I found this thing in the street. So it's a little kind of guide map for Edinburgh, which you can pick up from somewhere. And so it's just on the street. And so what I did is I did a whole bunch of different shots at different apertures and different shutter speeds. And this I wanted to be more a review of it with fast enough shutter speeds so you're not looking at the vibration reduction, but more just at its sharpness at its different apertures. So what I've got here is this shot, as you can see up here, shot at 200mm, f2.8 and 1,000th of a second. So ISO is at 800, and that was just so that we definitely had a fast shutter speed for whenever we changed the aperture. So when we went from 2.8 to 4, the shutter speed would be down to maybe 500, and then 4 to 5.6, it would be down to 250th. So that's still fast enough for a fast shutter, you know, for no motion blur to be caused. Okay, and look at this shot here. This is it at f2.8 and at 200mm. So if you go kind of really close in, you can see, oh wait, I'm still zoomed in the actual TV screen. So that's kind of what you can pretty much still make out what it's saying. You can still read that that says Queen Street. You can not really tell what that says or that says. You can probably can't really make out that one. Harriet Row, you can read that one. But you know how much, you know, that's at f2.8 at 200mm, and that was the original shot there. If we increase the clarity, let's see if that makes it any better. So yeah, I would say that's a little bit better with the clarity, and let's just increase the contrast. Maybe not the contrast. Let's just enhance the blacks. So that looks pretty darn sharp to me already. So that's at f2.8. So that's not too bad. If I do just the inner crop bit, this is what you've got. Not too bad. What I'll do is I'll put these all on the blog so you can see them one after the other right beside each other. Now the next one is at f4, so this is one stop down, and you can see the speed hasn't actually changed that much. It's only down to 1/750th of a second. But here, I would say it is definitely a bit sharper. Now I can read that this bit here says Dundas Street. And Harriet Row, that's all pretty good as well. And that's with no kind of change of increased clarity. Definitely that enhances it a lot. Let's just leave it as it was naturally. And then the last one is at f5.6. And let's take the sharpness here. So I think that's looking pretty darn good. If I were to go and just show you the one, so if we go from shot, shot, shot. So the first one here. So yeah, let's look at this. So 5.6, pretty sharp. 4, pretty sharp. f2.8, you can definitely tell is a little bit mushier than f4, but that really is just a case of just stopping it down by one stop from 2.8 to f4, and it's as sharp as it looks like it's going to be all the way through the range. And even at f2.8, you can see there's definitely a drop in contrast, and it just, yeah, it definitely looks a little bit mushy in comparison to the other ones. So that's at 200mm. Now, what I then did is I zoomed it out of the way, so instead of being this close, I went to 70mm, which is here. So, standing in exactly the same position, but just changed the zoom. And if we zoom in here, so obviously it's a much smaller point, and the noise from 800 ISO, you can really quite well see that. But let's just go, I'll just highlight the kind of inner crops that I've done. That one, and okay, you can't really make out any of the names or anything here. It is very small. Let's go to 2.2, and so that was f2.8. This is f5.6, and this is at f4. Okay, so 2.8, again, a tiny little, actually very little difference. So it seems like when it's at 70 millimeters, there's very good quality at f2.8, and you get only a tiny amount of difference at changing or stopping down to f4, f5.6. And let's see if we go to f2.8 and we just enhance the clarity, and let's say we enhance the blacks. See, now it already looks better than f4 or f5.6. So yeah, quite impressed with that, So that again was from the shot of there. So what I'll do is I'll go put this on the blog, and you can have a look at the pictures yourself. I'll try and put them in their full size for you to see. But in terms of the central area of the image, I was very impressed with how it worked, especially at 70 millimeters. At 200, it's a little bit softer than I would expect, but I was very impressed with how sharp that was. So yeah, just let you see that. Okay, cheers, bye-bye. Oh, actually, just before I go, the next thing I want to show you is some other shots that I got where I was really working with the vibration reduction to see how good that was. So here I was just standing outside of my car, and I was zoomed in at 200 millimeters. Now, when you're shooting with 200 millimeters, you should really have a shutter speed which is equal to your focal length or faster, so you don't get vibration. And if you're using a crop sensor, then you've got to add that onto your kind of length. So a 200 millimeter actually becomes a 300 millimeters. So to have a sharp image, you should probably always have, if you're shooting a stationary object, if you're shooting at 200 millimeters, you should have a 300th of a second or faster. But here I was going crazy slow. Here, as you can see, I was down at 1/45th of a second at f4. Let's see the next one. It was 30th of a second at f4. So let's look at this. So here I'm at a 30th of a second, f4. And that's me zoomed in to 2.2. This is me at 1.1. I would say that is very impressive for a 30th of a second. So that's like 10 times slower than I would normally expect it. 10 times is equivalent of 3.5 stops, because you go 2, 4, 8, and then be up to like 16. So it's like 3.2 stops worth of vibration reduction that I'm getting with the vibration control on this. So that, like, you can clearly read that says Peter Vardy, Mini Emergency Services. You can even see like all the little dots of the kind of leather print that they've got inside a Mini. Yeah, just very good to get a 30th of a second and a shot that is that good is pretty darn impressive. And at f2.8, I was at 60th of a second, and again, just super sharp. So let's see the difference between a 60th of a second and, okay, here, so let's look at a 60th of a second and a 30th of a second. Both at 200, the only difference was it went from 2.8 to f4. Obviously that's one stop, so that means the shutter speed has gone from a 30th to 60th of a second. And let's see, so that's a 60th looks good, a 30th looks good. If we zoom right in, this is, what are we at just now? This is a 30th and this is a 60th. So I'd say the 60th is probably a little bit better. I would definitely say that, but just phenomenal. Just like 200 millimeters at 60th or even a 30th of a second, and you're getting images that are as sharp as that. Okay, granted, I've probably got very still hands, but that was me hand holding something at 200 millimeters, and that's quite a big lens and everything. So yeah, I definitely wasn't, wazzed up on coffee or anything at that time, like I normally am. So yeah, I'll put those on the website as well for you to have a look at. They'll be on the blog. Okay, hope that helps. Cheers. Bye bye.